This news is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israel's killed at least 26 people in Gaza over the past day. An airstrike on a home in Rafah killed at least 6 Palestinians, 4 of them children. This is Sana Zaroub, the child's aunt.
3 missiles hit the innocent children. A mother and 2 girls were sleeping in her lap. They were sleeping in her lap. The 2 girls, do you know what it means to be sleeping in their mother's lap? They are in pieces. They were in grade 1 and grade 6. Bisan and Basmala. Bisan and Basmala were sleeping in their mother's lap. They are in pieces. They slept in their mother's lap and now they are in pieces. How did the Israelis benefit from this? What did they benefit from killing the innocent children?
Israel's refused to retreat from its threat of an expected ground invasion of Rafah, despite warnings it would be absolutely catastrophic. In other news from Gaza, Israeli authorities confirmed a prominent Palestinian doctor died in an Israeli prison in what Palestinian authorities are calling an assassination. Adnan al-Bursh, a surgeon, the head of orthopedics at Al-Shifa Hospital, was detained by Israel over 4 months ago while he'd been working at Al-Auda Hospital in North Gaza. UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese said in response to al-Bursh's death, quote, "How many more lives will have to be taken before UN member states act to protect the Palestinians?" she asked. On Thursday, Israeli prison authorities released 64 Palestinians they detained in Gaza. One of the detainees was returned dead, another in critical condition. This is Jamal Oaisi, one of the released prisoners, describing his arrest.
I took my children and we were leaving the area and we were going towards a safer place, such as Deir al-Balah, Khan Yunis, Mawasi, Rafah. I wanted them to be in a safe place, but they left without me. The Israeli soldiers caught me and they put me in a house. They asked me to take off all my clothes and I stayed in my underwear. Then they brought a truck and put us inside the truck. They started to beat us. They were beating me in my face. We reached the detention area, hoping they would stop beating, but they didn't.
International Criminal Court prosecutor Karim Khan is warning the court's, quote, independence and impartiality are undermined when individuals threaten to retaliate, unquote, after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called news of possible ICC arrest warrants against himself and other top Israeli officials a, quote, anti-Semitic hate crime. As the genocide in Gaza continues, the student protest movement here in the U.S. keeps growing. The Associated Press reports nearly 2,200 people have now been arrested nationwide across college and university campuses. President Biden addressed the protests Thursday.
Dissent is essential to democracy, but dissent must never lead to disorder or to denying the rights of others so students can finish the semester and their college education. Look, it's basically a matter of fairness. It's a matter of what's right. There's the right to protest, but not the right to cause chaos.
President Biden also said the historic student uprising will not affect U.S. policy in the Middle East. On Thursday, police arrested students at Portland State University, the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, and here in New York, SUNY's Purchase and New Paltz campuses. Meanwhile, new solidarity encampments went up in recent days at the University of Washington and the University of Toronto, among others. Video of Dartmouth College history professor Annalise Orlick being violently arrested Wednesday night has prompted outrage. Orlick, who is also chair of Jewish Studies at Dartmouth, was trying to protect students along with other faculty members as they were attacked by police. Police made over 90 arrests there that night. Here in New York, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office says it's investigating after a police officer fired a gunshot on the Columbia campus while the NYPD was forcing out protesters on Tuesday night from Hamilton Hall. No one was harmed harmed in the shooting. Students at Rutgers University in New Jersey and the University of Minnesota have voluntarily disassembled their encampments after school leadership agreed to some of their demands and to continue conversations with the protesters. International solidarity encampments are also spreading, including in Italy, Australia, Mexico, and Tunisia. In France, students at the prestigious Sciences Po escalated their protest after the school rejected demands to review its relationship with Israel. Several students announced they're starting a hunger strike.
The student will continue her hunger strike until the following demand is met by Sciences Po: the inscription on its agenda and the holding of a vote without anonymity at the Council of the Institute to investigate the ties with Israeli universities who are contributing to the genocide.
The Pentagon has acknowledged that a U.S. drone strike in Syria, which was initially reported to have successfully targeted an al-Qaeda senior leader, in fact killed a farmer. The strike took place last May, killing Lutfi Hassan Masto, a 56-year-old farmer who raised sheep, chickens, and cattle. After the attack, Masto's family and neighbors said he had no connections to al-Qaeda or any other armed groups. Russian armed forces may have executed Ukrainian soldiers who attempted to surrender or had already surrendered, which could amount to war crimes. That's according to a new report published by Human Rights Watch, which investigated incidents of what it described as apparent summary executions of at least 15 Ukrainian soldiers between December 2023 and February. In related news, the Biden administration has imposed new sanctions against hundreds of individuals and firms linked to Russia's war in Ukraine after accusing Moscow of illegally deploying chemical weapons against Ukrainian fighters. The sanctions include 20 firms based in China and Hong Kong. In Virginia, the historic case against U.S. military contractor CACI, brought by 3 Iraqi survivors of torture at the notorious Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq, has ended in mistrial after the jury on Thursday failed to reach a unanimous verdict. The lawsuit against CACI was first filed by the Center for Constitutional Rights in 2008. Plaintiffs Suhail al-Shamari, Asad Zubai, and Salah al-Ajali had accused CACI of conspiring to commit war crimes at Abu Ghraib. The 3 were subjected to sexual abuse and other forms of torture by interrogators. We'll have more on the story later in the broadcast with the legal director of the Center for Constitutional Rights. The Biden administration announced a new rule expanding access to the Affordable Care Act for immigrants brought to the U.S. as children, known as Dreamers. The measure will allow recipients of Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, to enroll in health care plans under Obamacare. Some 100,000 immigrants are expected to enroll. The Senate Budget Committee held a hearing this week on the fossil fuel industry's efforts to deceive the public about its role in fueling the climate crisis. Wednesday's hearing focused on what lawmakers identified as the 4th phase in Big Oil's climate deception, in which companies launched a widespread greenwashing campaign as they carried out business as usual. This is Senate Budget Committee Chair Sheldon Whitehouse.
Phase 4, put simply, is climate denial light. A green-leaning cover for the industry's continued covert operation through dark money, phony front groups, false economics, and relentless exertion of political influence to block meaningful climate safety progress.
A federal court of appeals has sided with the Justice Department and dismissed Juliana versus United States, the historic youth climate lawsuit against the U.S. government. The decision was made by a panel of 3 Trump-appointed judges from the Ninth Circuit. The group who brought the case, Our Children's Trust, is calling on the full court to reconsider the ruling and on the American public to contact the Biden administration to demand it stop persecuting climate activism. Kelsey Juliana, the named plaintiff in the case, spoke to Democracy Now! In 2019.
So we're looking at the ways that the federal government has very knowingly and willfully funded this climate crisis. and the way that they are continuing to stall and delay our climate case shows you exactly their priorities of their own self-interest and continuing this greedy fossil fuel economy rather than ensuring the constitutional rights of life, liberty, and property to all citizens, especially young.
The UK has started rounding up and detaining asylum seekers as part of its highly contested plan to deport migrants to Rwanda. Rights groups are hoping legal challenges can stop the deportation flights, which are expected to start as early as July. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservative government overrode a Supreme Court ruling in order to ram through the policy. On Thursday, London police arrested dozens of protesters who lay down on the road and slashed tires to stop a bus from carrying detainees to a barge that was converted into a migrant prison. Authorities were forced to postpone the planned transfer of asylum seekers. Two Trump-appointed federal judges rejected a new Louisiana congressional map, which created a second majority black district. The map was drawn up after another federal judge ruled a previous voting map, which had just one black majority district, violated the Voting Rights Act. Roughly one-third of Louisiana's population is black. It remains unclear which map Louisiana will be using in November, as the case is expected to reach the U.S. Supreme Court. In other election news, New York Democratic State Senator Timothy Kennedy easily won a special election Tuesday for the New York congressional seat vacated in February by Brian Higgins, another Democrat. House Republicans hold 217 seats, while Democrats have 213 seats with 5 current vacancies. In New York, prosecutors told a judge at the Manhattan Criminal Court they will retry Harvey Weinstein after the New York Court of Appeals overturned his 2020 rape conviction last week. The new trial is expected sometime after Labor Day. And today marks World Press Freedom Day. UNESCO awarded its World Press Freedom Prize to all Palestinian journalists covering Israel's war on Gaza. During a ceremony in Chile, the jury's chairperson, Mauricio Weidel, said, quote, "As humanity, we have a huge debt to their courage and commitment to freedom of expression," he said. Palestinian authorities say over 140 journalists and media workers, the vast majority of them Palestinian, have been killed since October 7th. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Democracy Now! Is funded by viewers like you. Please give today at democracynow.org/give.